This week, we're covering another aerospace weirdo with connections to the Mojave Desert. He's a rocket man, an occultist, and a fan of orgies. This is the Jack Parsons episode with Ringa Sunn, who's back on the show from Pittsburgh, and Andrea back from Long Beach. I'm looking forward to the hot takes and the zero hinges that you both are going to bring to this.
It's a lot. This is one of those, this guy has everything. This is a Stefan story because we've got ritualistic orgies, we have menstrual blood cakes, we have literal rocket science, we have
Caltech, we have
Crowley,
City
we
College,
have Scientology. We just like everything is in this story.
And together, I really hope we'll answer the question that's on the top of everyone's mind, which is, did Jack Parsons and Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard ever have sex?
Yes.
Ringa just jumped right in there with the answer.
That was Andrea. That was
me, and I say that with no knowledge beyond just my intuition and also my dreams and wishes.
I will tell you that I don't think they did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think they had sex like near each other a lot and they masturbated together a lot, but I don't think L. Ron liked Jack that much. Now, do we consider indirect kiss like a thing? Because, you know, L. Ron definitely had sex with Jack's wife and both of his wives, and also that's a whole nother story. There's a lot to unpack there.
We have to get through the biography. So let's go into the story. But I do think, why isn't there a Chuck Tingle book that's like
Pounded
Jack
by my rocket?
Parsons being pounded by L. Ron Hubbard.
Well, because L. Ron Hubbard would have to be like a jet in and of himself. But yes, I'm sure that's coming.
The jet would be named L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah.
We have to think of who are we going to cast as these guys. Jack Parsons, who do we picture?
So it's hard for me because there was a TV show about Jack Parsons already.
Oh, really? What's the TV show? I'm not familiar with it.
It's called Strange Angel, and it's on Paramount Plus. It is pretty good for a network TV show. Like, they can only do so much, really, with it being on Paramount Plus, right? Because this is a crazy story. So for what they could do, I think they did a really good job of it. And in that, Jack Rayner plays Jack Parsons, and I think he did an exceptional job. Jack Rayner, he's in a whole bunch of stuff, but like the thing that I know him from the most is he's the boyfriend in Midsummer.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. I just want to cast Andrew Garfield and everything. So
I mean, he'd be great. Yeah, he'd be great in it.
He's very good.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, Jack Parsons. Who do we cast?
Jack Parsons' head is very square. So I do see a Pedro Pascal because his head is also very square.
Oh yeah, I could see that. And he has to be able to like look good in the that 40s aesthetic with the mustache with no beard kind of thing, you know, like only certain people can pull that off. But Pedro can pull that off.
Yeah.
And in fact, especially coming up with the Fantastic Four movie that's coming out, which is set in the 50s. So that's, pretty good there. Yeah.
Okay. And who do we have to play young L. Ron Hubbard?
I think a Skarsgård could pull it off because they're little freaks. All of them. I see any of the Skarsgårds.
Oh man.
We have so much to cover. I don't know if we're gonna get deep into anyone's spooky stories, but do you have like a brief, like a 30-second soundbite spooky story of anything that's happened to either of you this week?
So just now, I was at a little community meeting thing at a beer, what's it called? A brewery. And in the corner, up on the shelf, was like a alien face, like the alien from the movie with all the teeth. And I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and it scared the shit out of me, and I almost fell off a bench. So that was that happened this day and this week.
Excellent. Well, today is my friend Allison's birthday. We've been like besties since like 1997. Happy birthday, 40th birthday, Allison. Woo woo. And so Monday we went and did a whole bunch of stuff for her birthday. And 3 of the things we did were things that are local Pittsburgh things that like none of us have ever done, but are like really cool things that we've all wanted to do. So that was neat. One of them was to go to this church, St. Anthony's, which is the largest collection of holy relics aside from the Vatican. So I went and looked at a bunch of bones. And the last place we went to was
Are they human bones?
Yeah, they're chips of bones from saints. And there is pieces of the actual cross. I'm doing air quotes. And there's a thorn from the actual crown of thorns there. And like, good on these people for believing so hard in something. And the last place we went to was this museum that is in a person's house, and they collect weird shit. So there was a lot of like taxidermy and human teeth, weapons, and just all kinds of the craziest thing you can think of. They probably have it. So that was a fun time.
Body parts of humans.
I think I still have my wisdom teeth like in a jar somewhere. Should I send them to you both?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. But I will say, during the full moon or whatever, there are just so many ambulances, police cars, fire trucks showing up at my work, which is just a big building, very, serious. Not a lot of stuff happens, but I saw an ambulance pull up and they started carting someone out who was wearing like a mascot costume. And this is why I don't trust people's recollections of paranormal things a lot of time, because I was like, wow, that's weird. That person's wearing like a mascot costume. And I went on my way, and then someone asked me, what mascot costume was it? And I was like, I don't know, it was yellow. It could have been a Pikachu. So it could have been, they were carting out a person on a stretcher or whatever in a Pikachu costume. And I'm like, now I picture a person in a Pikachu costume because I said it. Yeah. And now that's going to be forever my memory of this person being carted out of the building in a Pikachu costume. But I'm not 100% sure if it really was a Pikachu costume or just a yellow mascot costume of some sort.
There's like a famous meme video of a Pikachu. It's several mascot costumes, and one of them's a Pikachu, and like one of them has been like stabbed to death, and one of them's being arrested, and one of them's being taken in an ambulance. And that's what I'm thinking of.
This is stuff in those. So now in my head, I picture a Pikachu being taken away in an ambulance. But I'm not sure if that's what actually happened. Do not trust your memory. Let's get into it.
I have, if you will, written this little list. And this is, I suppose, especially for Andrea, who knows nothing about this.
Okay.
I have a list of comparisons for Jack Parsons to characters from Our Flag Means Death. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, this is the only language I speak, so that's great.
Let me just read you off real quick, because I was thinking about this as I was driving my Grubhub today. Right, Jack Parsons has the bullied rich boy childhood of Steed, the cunning of Ed, the fervor for inebriation of Jack, the witchiness of Buttons, the pyromania of Wee John, the sex drive of Lucius, and the sheer dumbassery of Archie.
Oh, okay. That really painted a picture for me, and I really appreciated that. Thank you.
And
which is just to say, I think Taika Waititi could do a really good Jack Parsons
really
sitcom.
Good Jack Parsons movie.
Yes. Sitcom would be the way to go with this, because...
Yeah, you can't fit it all into 2 hours.
I'm picturing What We Do in the Shadows, and it's L. Ron Hubbard, and it's Jack Parsons, and it's these crazy guys all in a house, and it's just What We Do in the Shadows, but it's
aerospace guys. George Van Tassel.
Yeah, it's like shades of Jojo Rabbit. Taika can play Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. And we have Aleister Crowley, like, there kind of in spirit a little bit. Like,
I mean...
he was actually in Community.
Yeah, I was going to say he was a big part of a lot of this.
Yeah,
for real, and hated every moment of it, because he's just a very fun-loving guy.
Yeah, I'll work on writing this pilot. I think it could be really funny. A lot of opportunity for just sitcom humor. Jack Parsons, we have to love him. We can't make him a complete asshole, but in real life, he was probably an asshole. But
I feel
we have to make him just a dum-dum, but like,
that's the thing. He's very himbo. I think that he thought everything he was, you're always the hero of your own story.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of good things. And I think that even the things he did that weren't so great, he was seeing as going towards somewhere good. And, a lot of the stuff that he did that was questionable was just because he was an idiot. He was one of those extremely intelligent people, but also stupid as fuck for, some of the shit he got into.
You know what I think?
A lot of people, right? You can be book smart and life stupid. I'm very into this idea. And
like we could just cast. We don't have to cast people to look the way that they look. But like part of me is like Matt Berry. Like, let's just make Matt Berry Jack Parsons.
I would love that.
Right?
What can't Matt Berry do? I mean,
that's true. That's true. Because we love what we did in the shadows, let's just recast all of them, but just reassign them different characters.
Jack Parsons was born with a great name, Marvel Whiteside Parsons. And by the way, let's just take a moment to appreciate that name. Everyone say great name.
Great name.
On October 2nd, 1914 in Pasadena, California. He is a Gemini rising, just like Ringa. He is a Scorpio. He's got a whole bunch of planets in Scorpio, just like Andrea.
That does not surprise me.
And he's got a Pisces moon, and his sun is in Libra, which is like, well, that's strange. You know, I'm a Libra rising. I have a bunch of planets in Libra. But when you hear his story, you're like, okay, I get it. What's very interesting is the ruler of his chart, Mercury, is making a close conjunction to Mars and is applying to Mars. So that lets us know that his life's going to be short. It's going to be fast. It's going to be about blowing stuff up. And that's what his passion is.
It truly was.
His chart's great. Look at his chart if you're an astrology girly. His family was wealthy, but his father also named Marvel. No one's named Marvel anymore. We need more people named Marvel. Great name.
Yeah, I was gonna say now it's tainted. You can't be Marvel now.
I'd say we can.
I mean, we'll reclaim it from Disney.
I'm sure that a bunch of people are going to be named Marvel coming up, but for different reasons. Yeah.
This boy's father was named Marvel. He's named Marvel. His father was a dick. His father had an affair with another woman and left, leaving Marvel Jr.'s mother a single mother. That's when Marvel Jr.'s mom began calling him John instead of Marvel. Understandable. Don't name your kid after your baby daddy, because chances are you're always going to get stuck with your kid, but you're 50-50, maybe higher, that the baby daddy is going to be out of the picture eventually. So in 8th grade, Jack becomes friends with another boy named Edward Foreman, and they bond over Jules Verne and the Amazing Stories science fiction magazine. Aww.
And Jack's family was pretty well off, and his grandfather spoiled him a lot and would send him to school in a limo.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, these kids did not know that life, so he was bullied a lot because he was this rich kid that had no concept of being, normal. So he would send him to school with all this pocket money, the grandfather, which was hundreds of dollars in today's money.
Oh my God.
And this was maternal or paternal grandfather?
The maternal, I believe, because the father pieced, and then pretty sure. Yeah.
These kids, though, Jack and Ed, they start experimenting with fireworks, and their moms are cool with this. And in 1928, when they're just 14 years old, they began building their own solid-fueled rockets.
I mean, the boys I knew when I was 12 also loved to light things on fire. And at least 2 of them went to MIT. I don't talk to them anymore, but, they probably were building rockets too.
I think if Jack was born today and this was all going on, he would have been the Tony Stark of this generation, because he would have been sent to MIT at age 8 and stuff like that. But being that it was, in the 20s, he didn't get quite that opportunity because rockets didn't exist and people didn't believe they would exist, and they thought this is science fiction and it's not real, and what are you talking about, you're insane. It'd be like someone today being so I'm working on a way to make us invisible. I'm picturing a couple years down the road and I'll have it figured out, and you'd be like, okay, crazy. But that's what he did, and he made it happen.
And the thing is, their parents are cool with this. This is what's really great. Let your kids pursue their passion.
Let your kids blow shit up.
Jack's backyard is soon full of burn marks and craters. And in 1932, when Jack is just 18 and still in high school, he begins working at the Hercules Powder Company, which is a chemical munitions manufacturing company that was founded in 1912. And by the way, the town of Hercules in Northern California got its name because the town was the manufacturer of Hercules powder, which was a special dynamite formula patented in 1874.
I have to say, this is so strange because my college roommate was from Hercules. I never think about her. And I was talking about her like 2 days ago.
Amazing.
And I just now learned where Hercules is from. That's really bizarre.
Yeah, I know someone from Hercules too, so it's funny. And it's just funny growing up in Northern California, like you'd hear that town name all the time and you're like, oh wow, so this was a dynamite company. Okay. In 1933, Jack graduates high school and begins studying at Pasadena Junior College, which is now Pasadena City College, which I used to teach at. And eventually he quits college. And as a college professor, I support this. If you are not feeling college, if that's not your vibe, don't spend money continuing to suffer.
Also, don't pay back your loans.
Yeah, that's not happening for me.
Oh, God. Okay, don't take financial advice from this podcast.
Don't take any advice from this podcast.
So the two, Jack and Ed, begin working at Halifax Explosives out in the Mojave Desert. At the age of 23, Jack becomes a minor celebrity as an expert witness at a murder trial. A captain of the LAPD's intelligence unit is convicted. Yes, we love to convict cops, largely on the basis of Parsons' testimony about a car bomb that this LAPD officer planted, and it killed a police whistleblower. Let's just pay attention to that there. An LAPD person planted a car bomb to kill a police whistleblower. That kind of shit happens in LA with the LAPD all the freaking time. This is the most corrupt, most corrupt city in the world.
And Jack, they brought him in to see if you could make this kind of bomb with the stuff that the cop had just like in his garage. And Jack was able to put together the exact same bomb in like 5 minutes.
In 1937, Jack and Ed go to Caltech in Pasadena for a lecture on rocketry. There they meet Frank Molina, a theorist and a mathematician, and Jack, Ed, and Frank try to get a rocket development program at Caltech going, but they're refused since everyone at the time is like, rocketry, that's science fiction stuff. That's crazy. That's comic book nonsense. We don't do that in real life. Then an aerospace dynamicist named Theodore Van Carmen listens to Jack, Ed, and Frank's plans to send liquid and solid fueled rockets into the upper atmosphere, and he approves Frank's proposal for a PhD in rocket design.
So these guys walked into Caltech and were like, hey, we want a job building rockets and stuff. And they were like, no. And they're like, but pretty please. And they said, yeah. So they hired these guys with no degrees, no, anything to make rockets on the dime of Caltech.
So I have them to blame for the stupid 7-minute rocket bullshit we had to deal with for like so many days. So this is their fault. Okay, I'll remember that.
Wait, what rocket bullshit? What are you talking about?
Remember like a month ago when like some celebrities, including Katy Perry, did like a 7-minute rocket ride, and it was like the dumbest thing ever, and we all talked about it a bunch. This is their fault, and I'm mad about it.
Yeah,
the fake going into space thing. Yeah,
indirectly. Yeah,
directly. I'm saying.
I mean, he was interested in that, but I think he was more interested in things that go boom than just like the traveling and returning safely part of it. I mean, that was part of the research, of course, but it was more of this is why I compare him to Howard Stark a lot, because he was like very attractive, having the sexy times, doing all the things, but incredibly smart and making shit blow up.
Yeah, with his, Mercury conjunct Mars and his 6th house.
And then all that Scorpio to be a freak.
Yeah. Because of various explosive mishaps, Theodore has to move Jack, Frank, and Ed out into the desert. The trio become known to other students as the Suicide Club, and they begin their experiments at a place known as Devil's Gate Dam, which is where Jet Propulsion Lab is located today.
I will correct you on one little thing.
Yeah.
They were called the Suicide Squad.
Really?
They were. Well before that was a thing with DC.
Okay.
That was their name, was the Suicide Squad.
My bad. I wrote that down wrong.
Dude, it's okay. I could see why you would think that was not correct. But yeah, they were the OG Suicide Squad,
That's
aka
cute.
we might actually die at any moment.
I love that. The next year, the trio begins doing rocket development for the U.S. Army. And during this time, Jack is also developing an interest in mythology and is learning about Greek fire, which is similar to napalm. And it was used by the Byzantine Empire. Say that 5 times really fast. Byzantine Empire, Byzantine Empire. From the 7th to 14th centuries. Jack experiments with some ideas based on this, developing a jet-assisted takeoff canister. This solid rocket fuel becomes the foundation for the Minuteman missile, the Titan rocket, and the Space Shuttle solid rocket booster. And I love that he gets the idea from mythology. And I saw in the Wikipedia article about this, there's like, old Greek guys on a boat shooting a flamethrower to like another boat. And it's like old style, painting, medieval, and it's very funny because it's like, that looks very anachronistic, but I guess they had flamethrowers in the Greek times. Enter Aleister Crowley onto the scene. Also born October 12th, 1875, another Libra. He too, like Jack Parsons, comes from a wealthy family in Royal Leamington Spa, Warwickshire, England. Edward Alexander Crowley's father was an engineer with a share in a lucrative family ale business, which allowed him to retire before his son was born. By the way, he's 46 when his son is born, so he retires before that. So he retires in his mid to early 40s. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And I'm throwing up...
We'll never know that life. It sounds nice, though.
Yep.
I'm throwing up Aleister Crowley's chart on the screen. You guys can't see it, but I can see it. He is a Leo rising, like Andrea.
No, I'm Leo Moon, Scorpio rising.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But there's someone, was it Belle? Somebody's a Leo rising, which means, needs a lot of attention.
Chloe is a Leo rising. Yeah, I think. And so he's a Leo rising. His sun is in Libra, as we talked about, right on his descendant. And he's a Pisces moon. And some interesting things that I see in his chart: Uranus in the 1st house, right opposing Saturn in the 7th house. So he's into that kinky, what's the word? Unconventional sexual stuff.
The weird shit.
Yeah. Growing up, Crowley has a tense relationship with his mom, who called him the Beast, which is a name Crowley appreciates. At 14, he loses his virginity to his family maid on his mother's bed. She's fired and becomes a destitute alcoholic and is rumored to be a victim of Jack the Ripper.
There's so much in that sentence, I actually don't think I can speak to any of it. That was a wild thing that you just said to me.
Let's just take a moment to acknowledge Aleister Crowley, 14 years old, losing his virginity to his family maid on his mother's bed. That's change as a child, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, and then I don't know how old she was, hopefully not much older than 14. And then she got murdered by the most famous serial killer of all time, maybe. That's a wild turn of events for her.
I wonder if it was a predatory situation. Was it 14-year-old? I mean, the 14-year-old son of the employer has a little bit of a power dynamic there. Is the maid young? Is the maid old? What's going on? We don't know.
Well, if she was killed by Jack the Ripper, she must have been young.
Yeah. When Crowley's father dies of tongue cancer in March of 1887, it's a major turning point of Crowley's life. He's always considered his father my hero, my friend. In a way, he is the hero here because Crowley gets to inherit a third of his father's wealth and begins, as understandable, misbehaving in school and is harshly punished for it. You're going through a lot of trauma. You liked your dad. You lost your dad. You're going to have behavioral problems come up. Mm-hmm. And in the old days, it was like, we don't understand feelings. We don't understand psychology. We're just going to punish the child.
Yep. No therapy here.
Which fucks you up. Crowley says that his schoolmaster was a sadist, and a doctor finds that Crowley is suffering from albuminuria, which is a urinary disease from a kidney injury. Does that mean like he got beaten so hard by his schoolmaster that he got like an injury to his kidney? I don't know, but that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And he's taken from school because he's told he's not going to have long to live. And he's taken out to the country, which is what they do in the old days. You're sick, you're dying, we'll take you out to the country. And he's taught by a tutor. His health and education do improve, probably because he's not getting beaten by his schoolmaster, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
In his Confessions of Aleister Crowley, he talks a lot about all the fights that he continues to get in with his tutors. He gets into like physical altercations with these country tutors.
So maybe a little opposition defiance disorder going on there.
Yeah, but also understandably, you dealt with a lot of trauma as a child. You acted out, which is reasonable given the situation. You get punished for it. So you're like, fuck authority. Fuck all authority. Don't tell me what to do. He goes to Cambridge.
So he goes from beating up his tutors to getting into Cambridge?
Yeah, that's because he's a rich kid.
I forgot he's rich. Sorry, I forgot.
You got money. You can do whatever you want. That's still true today.
Yeah. So he goes to Cambridge. He travels around a lot, and he goes to Stockholm one day in December of 1896, and he is staying at the Grand Hotel there, and he has his first same-sex experience with another man, opening his mind to the world of bisexuality. And he describes it as just a spiritual awakening for him. At Cambridge, when he goes back from his December vacation and returns to Cambridge, he continues having lots of sex with women, mostly sex workers. He gets syphilis, and he also begins taking part in same-sex activities and even has a relationship with the president of the drama club.
Well, I hope he got the syphilis treated first.
I do too.
Everyone had syphilis back then.
This is true. His occult career begins at 23. In 1898, he reads some occulty books. He meets a guy. Stuff happens. He finally gets introduced to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which is a secret society devoted to the study and practice of occult hermeticism, metaphysics, astrology, and is very influential in the ritualistic magic movement. A lot of us tarot girlies, there's a lot of Golden Dawn interpretations to the tarot, so if you're tarot girly, chances are you've touched on some Golden Dawn symbolism and talk like that. So he rises up the ranks of the Golden Dawn, and there's a ton of interesting things about Crowley's life that I'm going to skim over because he's not the main character here. But he's eventually expelled from the Golden Dawn for deviant homosexual behavior.
Wait, so this like mysticism, like, oh yeah, that's all fine, but being gay, absolutely not.
I think it was too much. It was too weird.
Sure.
Yeah, it was the 19th century still. And I think the Golden Dawn nowadays is very much like, because a lot of the tarot interpretations are like, this person's gender neutral. This is your male and your female side. This is all of the blending of the sexes and everything. Mm-hmm. But I think just getting started, people were a little old-fashioned.
Plus, he did not ease into it. He was like, here we fucking go.
Spreading syphilis left and right.
I mean.
This guy, Aleister Crowley, though, he does all the things. He travels, he mountain climbs, he went on multiple mountaineering expeditions, and as like a mountaineer, like he out-mountaineered the big top mountaineers. Like he climbed all the peaks. But one of the things that happens is he goes on a honeymoon in Cairo with his wife, and he studies Islamic mysticism. And his wife, Rose, seems to have like a spiritual episode. While they're having their honeymoon, she has kind of like a vision, and she takes Crowley to a nearby museum where she shows him a display with the number 666 on it. And this is an Egyptian artifact that Crowley would later call the Steel of Revealing. Less than a month later, Crowley is visited by an entity named Aiwas, who calls himself the minister of Hurparkrat. And Crowley says he can hear the voice of the entity coming to him from behind his left shoulder. And it feels like this entity is like in the room with him. Though veiled and ghostly, Crowley says that this Aiwas feels like a tall, dark man in his mid-30s with the face of a savage king. And he speaks to Crowley in English with no discernible accent and is dressed in a Persian or Assyrian style. And Aiwas visits Crowley for about an hour on April 8th, April 9th, and April 10th of that year. And on each of those days, Aiwas reveals a book of knowledge, and Crowley writes these down and publishes them in 3 chapters as the Book of Law, which becomes the fundamental text for his religion, Thelema.
Yeah, love a confident man who doesn't know what I was chosen by this guy who's only over my left shoulder, never my right. It's giving George Van Tassel and the Venusians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he creates this religion. The whole kind of doctrine of the religion is do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will. Every man and every woman is a star. And the main principle is that you find your true will, which is your unique personal destiny. You must overcome your desires to realize that purpose, which is the great work. Which, okay, that little sentence there, I'm like, I think becoming your most authentic version of yourself.
Yeah.
That is what makes you a great artist. That is what makes you a good person who has boundaries with other people. That's what makes you most effective in like living in the world. So I'm on board with that.
Yeah, but I also could have told you that without having a tall man with a savage face tell me that over my left shoulder. So, I mean,
Yeah, he didn't ask the guy to come. He just was chosen.
He was just so special.
He was so special. Not until later did they start asking these guys to visit them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, of course. I mean, he's the most special boy. How nice.
Right?
Magic, spelled with a K, is a central practice in Thelema, involving various physical, mental, and spiritual exercises aimed at uncovering one's true will and enacting change in alignment with it. Practices such as rituals, yoga, and meditation are all there to explore the consciousness and achieve mastery. And I found this pipes blog, like it's a smoking pipe company. They have like smoking tobacco. And they wrote a little thing on Crowley, and they made like a smoking tobacco flavor or something that's like a Crowley flavor. But I thought their little points about Crowley were really funny, so I'm reading them for you here. They say Crowley was a spoiled upper-class brat who carried strong racial and social prejudices against his fellow man. Interesting. Mm-hmm. In one famous example, Crowley beat Victor Nuremberg with stinging nettles while verbally abusing and berating him for being Jewish. Oh, that's no good. Don't do that.
That's no good.
He also beat his wife and various partners over his lifetime to prove his dominance over them. And during the expedition of one mountain, several of his porters complained that they were tired of Crowley beating them, with many of the porters leaving because of it. And Crowley only admitted to beating one after saying it was for his own good and for that of the expedition. Don't beat people.
I mean, it's a small lesson to learn, but I do think it's one you should take home with you.
Don't beat Don't beat animals. Don't beat people. Beat Nazis. Members of the Klan, you're allowed to beat members of the Klan.
Transphobes. Homophobes.
TERFs.
Yeah.
But not the person helping you up a mountain. Not
the person helping you up the mountain. That's the
No, not that one.
During this expedition in 1905 up this mountain, Crowley's fellow mountaineers fell victim to an avalanche, and they called for help. And rather than assist his dying comrades, Crowley puts his feet up and makes a cup of tea, and he sits and he watches them die on the mountain, later claiming he had no sympathy for his chums.
Yeah. That's not super chummy.
Yeah.
You would think whatever his angel demon's name was, Awas, would have taught him better than that, but I guess not.
It was not in the rules.
Yeah. I guess their authentic selves was meant to die in an avalanche, and he's like, well, why would I help you? That's your true will. So.
Yeah.
Well, he just sounds like a dick. So we're going back to Jack Parsons now. In 1939, Jack starts checking out the works of Aleister Crowley and the Thelemic religion. He and his wife Helen join a secret society that Crowley is a leader of, the Ordo Templi Orientis, which is practicing, amongst other things, sex magic. And Jack starts corresponding with Crowley and becomes Crowley's American representative of this religion. And on South Orange Grove Avenue in Pasadena, which, by the way, this is where Pancho Barnes lived.
Fun.
I know. It's a quirky road. Jack purchases a large house and creates a commune for actors, poets, and writers, including Robert Heinlein and L. Ron Hubbard. The house is called the Parsonage. I love a commune. A commune for artists and actors and poets and writers sounds amazing. Sitcom here, potential, The Parsonage. That's what we do in the shadows. Done. Taika Waititi, write it, direct it. I'm there. But why does every commune have to go downhill?
Exactly.
So
communes are great in theory. We've yet to see one work in practice. Or if it does work, we haven't heard about it because they're keeping it to themselves, which is the right idea.
On my other podcast, I'm going to tell you about a commune that is still operational and is working. So they can exist. I see the problem, though, as when you have like women and men in a commune, the men always take on the fun jobs. And when you try like to get in there and be like, oh, can I do the fun job? They just circle you out and you don't get to be doing the fun job. Well, that's my theory of why communes don't work. So it has to be a female-only commune.
Well, this one was a little unconventional, too, as far as the commune goes, because aside from all the sex magic stuff, Jack was paying for everything. Yeah. So it was not like a normal commune where everyone has to work together to exist and to continue living. Like things were going to be okay because they had a rich guy bankrolling everything. So it wasn't there was not quite the same pressure as there would have been with like, commune out in the desert or something like that.
Yeah. So the cops get called to this place a lot. There are naked pregnant women dancing through the fire in the garden, music, illegal substances. But because Jack is a respected Caltech scientist, and let's face it, he's a white guy, they leave him alone. There's a lot of career and occult crossover in Jack's life. He dances around and chants the hymn to Pan before the launch of every rocket. Mm-hmm. And the Suicide Squad is very successful with their rocket boosters, and they get large orders from the Air Force, and they found a company to meet that demand. And the military takes over the rocket project and changes the name to Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And JPL develops weapons deployment systems based on the liquid and solid fuel created by Jack. And after World War II is over, they attach one of these thingies to a V-2 rocket, and they're able to exit the Earth's atmosphere. And that's all fun, but it's also like war crimes.
Yeah.
I went to JPL once for work, and I got food poisoning. So it seems like it's
all
still
that
not.
rocket fuel in the air.
I don't know what it was. I don't know what the source was, but it was a rough couple of days.
Sorry. I wonder if it was bioterrorism, trying to
Probably.
take down all the JPL scientists so that they can stop their war crimes. And they're like,
I just happened to be there on the wrong day because I have nothing to do with that.
Yeah, so you got to be a victim of bioterrorism. Gosh, just imagine being a little boy who just likes to blow stuff up. And then basically your legacy is, congratulations, your invention basically genocides millions of people.
And this is where I continue the comparisons to Howard Stark and Tony Stark, because it is the legacy of, we're doing something good here, but then nothing good, especially when it's handed over to the government, stays good. It becomes, awful quickly. A lot of times scientists are mostly interested in forwarding the technology, forwarding what we're learning about it.
The theory. It's how do we make this happen? All that interesting.
Right.
How do we get to the moon? How do we get,
right.
And you're thinking of that sort of thing. But then the US government is like, how can I use this for the most awful reason imaginable?
Yep.
Yeah. So the leaders of Jack's company become increasingly concerned about Jack's reputation as he is doing all these parties and debauchery and incantations and whatnot. And so they offer him a payout and he takes it, because I would too. I would be like, oh, you want me to leave? You want to give me a bunch of money to not work? Done. Yeah. Jack is now the head of Pasadena's Ordo Templi Orientis and begins an open relationship with his wife Helen's half-sister, Sarah Northrup. And
great Mormon of him. How surprising.
Yeah. And Helen files for divorce. Understandable in that case. If you are not on board with your husband getting with your half-sister, that is a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. Helen was very involved with the religion and the sex magic and all of the orgies and whatnot. Helen was very into this life. I think either she didn't just come out and say at first that she was not cool with this half-sister thing, or because she tolerated it for a little bit, but it was very I think that Sarah is her name, I believe, the sister. She was a little more suited to him personality-wise, but it was not handled in in what we would consider a professional way, because in the OTO, it was very there's not allowed to be jealousy. Everyone shares everything. And, you guys, thinking about it's bad to sleep with your wife's sister is beneath us and stuff like that. So she was involved in the life, but to an extent, not as deep as him.
Well, I love the idea of not allowing jealousy. I just won't feel it anymore. It's allowed. Oh, okay.
Right. But
you're allowed to change your mind, in any sort of polyamorous situation. If you're okay, let's try polyamory, and you have a open conversation about that, and it's not coercive, and it's
in life
equal. But then you're allowed to be you know what? Actually, I changed my mind. This isn't my life. And you're allowed to leave. You're allowed to be
in life, you're allowed to do this. In religions and cults and, sex religion cults, not as much. Honestly, could have ended much worse for Helen,
Yeah. But I'm sorry she had to go through that.
Yeah.
It sounds hard. Hopefully we should do an episode just on her. What happened to her? I hope she's living her best life somewhere.
Yeah, I did know that once, but I don't remember what. But Sarah, Helen was traveling somewhere, and when she came home, Sarah was wearing her clothes and was I'm Jack's wife now.
I feel more conversations were needed to be had before that decision gets made.
Yeah.
In August of 1945, Jack meets a former Navy employee and pulp fiction writer named Lafayette Ronald Hubbard. He's immediately taken in by Hubbard's charm, writing, "I deduced that he is in direct touch with some higher intelligence. He is the most thelemic person I have ever met and is in complete accord with our own principles." Hubbard starts staying at the parsonage, and becomes a member of the order. Crowley, on the other hand, who's been in touch with Jack all about this whole thing, immediately sees L. Ron Hubbard as the charlatan that he is.
You got it. A charlatan knows a charlatan.
Exactly. Jack ignores Crowley's concerns, and Hubbard becomes Jack's magic partner. Enter the Chunk Tingle novel.
I think this might have played out a little differently too if Crowley was living there with them instead of being a whole country away.
Yeah.
Because part of L. Ron Hubbard's whole thing is charming people into doing what he wants. And I don't know, it would have been interesting to have a more direct one-on-one in any way you would like to see it with Hubbard and Crowley, because that would have been quite an interesting.
That's the great episode of our sitcom. It's like Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard finally meet.
It's like Crowley comes to visit.
And it's very much like the Calico Jack meets Stede Bonnet sort of situation.
Yeah.
And
so which one of them? No, we can't. No, Stede is a little perfect baby angel. Okay, he can't be either one of them. But I understand what you're saying. Yes, and I only wish I consider myself a charismatic person. I only wish I had the charisma of either of these white men to start a cult and be rich. That is like my major goal, and yet evades me.
So in the interest of full disclosure, the first thing I did was Google, did Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard have sex? And one Redditor commenter writes, he and L. Ron Hubbard spent 8 hours masturbating to try and summon a sex demon queen. And so I wanted to verify that. So I checked out a website called the occult.live/a bunch of things /Babalon_working. And
that sounds reputable.
I'll drop that link in the show notes, but it's a description of the Babalon working, which is what they did together. And in December of 1945, Parsons began a series of rituals based on Enochian magic, during which he masturbated onto magical tablets, accompanied by Sergei Prokofiev's second violin concerto. Describing his magical operation as the Babalon working, he hoped to bring about the incarnation of Thelemite goddess Babalon onto Earth. He allowed Hubbard to take part as his scribe, believing that he was particularly sensitive to detecting magical phenomenon, which is a very heterosexual thing for two men to do together.
I will say sometimes there were others present in some of these. Also, he had a black cape that he wore during these sessions, and he had a sword, and he was his solution to a lot of things like bad weather and stuff like that was to write out pentagrams with his sword in the air. And I think he really believed all this stuff. And I mean, yes, he did things where, and as it got crazier and bigger and he felt things happening, he would go from like doing the semen to doing his blood in these rituals, and you know, it just gets more intense and more intense, and he's trying to bring a goddess into the fold to create a child that will come and be a ruler, a female ruler to just, I can't even get into the insanity of everything that was happening here, but they did want a female ruler to come and make things better, which is cool. But
I'm cool with all of it by jerking their dicks. I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, no,
that was you know what is so powerful? My own penis and also the semen that comes out of it, and that's just a way to think about yourself.
Also, I will just note that these whole sessions weren't spent masturbating. Yeah. There was not
sometimes other stuff too.
There was not 8 hours long worth of masturbation. It was, all kinds of other stuff going on too. Also weird shit, but
I just have to acknowledge that there are two wolves inside me. There's one wolf that's totally into the woo and the ritual magic, and then there's the other wolf inside me that just wants to make fun of men, and that's why I'm dragging this man.
No,
I'm picturing
absolutely.
him in a black cape with a sword and just no trousers.
Yeah, dick out, sword up, black cape swirling around.
And literally speaking Enochian, which, you know, who knows if that is a real language. It's written down, which makes it legit. I think that he truly believed in these things, and that is part of the eccentric rich person who's been able to get away with things and succeed in things all his life. And he finds this area that fascinates him. Like, he tried to summon a demon, I believe, when he was 14, or Satan. Maybe it was actually Satan, if I remember correctly, in his bedroom when it was 14. And he called it didn't work properly, and he called it a magical catastrophe or something like that.
You could say that he has summoned Satan because he made these rockets that are used to do now. The technology is do the absolute worst things.
And that is another thing that I think these guys did not think about, how things present themselves to you in life. They're expecting like physical manifestations of demons and stuff, but that's not always how things work. And, you know, things come to you in different forms. And I don't think that they were looking for that. They were looking for very specific magical things. Also, they were incredibly high on every drug known to man all the time. Like all of them all the time. So there was just a lot going on, and I think he truly believed in this stuff. Again, if this was like happening today, I think it could go one of two ways, because it could be even worse today, or if he would have gotten into like MIT when he was young and gone on more of a like structured path, he could be fixing the world right now. But who knows? Who knows? I think he had good intentions, and that is how a lot of people who do terrible things, you know, they often have good intentions, and it turns out fucking awful. So
I'm just thinking of that What We Do in the Shadows episode where they're like, let's plan an orgy, and it's L. Ron Hubbard and it's Jack Parsons, and that's the episode.
And it was like an orgy every night, like like every night, and the neighbors were very aware of it, but there was a lot of like consuming of food that was baked with semen and with menstrual blood. He was on an odd path, let's put it that way.
So they do a final ritual in the Mojave Desert in late February of 1946, during which Jack just decides to stop. And when he returns to the parsonage, there is a young woman who is an unemployed illustrator who shows up at his door. And he believes her to be the elemental woman, the manifestation of Babalon. And he'd manifested her, right? So he begins performing sex magic rituals with her. Her name is Marjorie Cameron. She acts as his Scarlet Woman, while Hubbard continues to participate as an assistant.
Imagine showing up, you know, to like this like place you heard of, like, oh, I want to go to this like cool commune, and you get there, and the guy in charge is like, oh my god, you're my woman.
He doesn't tell her that she's the manifestation.
Oh, cool.
He keeps that quiet.
But she did. I will say she showed up there because some guy that she was sex buddies with told her about Jack and about the kind of shit that goes on there. So she showed up for the sex and the drugs.
She showed up for the sex party, and she got to be part of a ritual. How lucky for her.
Yeah, I think that it was like, it wasn't, she probably didn't know how deep it went, but it wasn't just like, I'm going to this writer's retreat, you know, like she was aware of,
I'm going to the sex retreat.
Yeah, I'm going to the sex and drugs retreat.
Yeah. So she doesn't know that Jack believes she's this Babalon. Everyone in the house knows it. And she's kind of a little bit, it sounds a little bit skeptical though about the magic, but she did report seeing a UFO, and Jack secretly believed that UFO was the materialization of Babalon. And then in The second phase of the working, Jack and L. Ron Hubbard aim to magically fertilize a magical child, again, which is a very heterosexual thing for two men to do. Sarah, Jack's sister-in-law / lover, becomes L. Ron Hubbard's second wife. And by the way, in the Scientology world, L. Ron denies all real connection to the Jack Parsons religion and everything. He tells, when he starts his own Scientology religion, he tells his Scientology followers that he was going to the parsonage to rescue a woman named Betty. And that's why he was there. He was like undercover. He's like, I'm infiltrating this horrid place.
Yeah, notoriously helpful and kind, L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, and I want to point out that when Carly says second wife, that is second at the same time.
Yeah.
That is, we already have a wife and we're having another one now. And Sarah was not aware of the first wife when all this happened. Yeah. But at some point here, Sarah and L. Ron Hubbard are both kind of just trying to like jab at Jack's emotions, which, in what way? Well, yeah. I think L. Ron at some point is like, I'm taking advantage of this guy. I'm going to make him weak. And Jack was very into Sarah in a way he wasn't as,
Okay.
But I think that was the whole plan, was like, I'm taking your woman and you're not supposed to feel jealousy, but here I come.
Yeah. Okay. So Jack's contributions to the Thelemic religion are that he identifies 4 obstacles that prevented humans from achieving and performing their true will, all of which he connected to fear, which, by the way, everything he says here is such a Libra thing, because I feel this in my soul. The fear of incompetence, the fear of the opinion of others, the fear of hurting others, and the fear of insecurity. And he insists that these must be overcome, writing that the will must be freed of its fetters, the ruthless examination and destruction of taboos, complexes, frustrations, dislikes, fears, and disgusts hostile to the will is essential to progress. Comments. As you non-Libra people, are you as constrained by these fears as I am?
Yeah. I think so. I think it's human nature to, we all experience imposter syndrome. I think it's helpful things that he's saying. I don't think they're profound things. I think anyone who's taken some time to self-reflect to come up with the same conclusions.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's human nature, all of that. And I think some people are more affected by it than others, but it's nothing like groundbreaking.
I will say, as a Leo moon, if I want to bring astrology into it, as a Leo moon, right, that is, I carry a lot of insecurity in terms of how I interpret, that part of my chart. So maybe that's why I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
But as a Leo moon, do you have the fear of hurting other people's feelings?
Sometimes. Yeah, I do. Sometimes. But only if I think they're really sensitive. But if they're, but that's true. I mean, as a Sagittarius, yeah, I mean, I just say whatever I think all the time. And I'm like, what? Were you upset? Too late. I'm over there now.
Oh my God. I have stayed in relationships for like 5 years because I didn't want to hurt the other person's feelings.
That's
Ringa's like, I don't give a shit what other people think. I'm a Gemini rising. You have never feared hurting other people's feelings.
That's not true. Okay, I mean, okay. Yes, until no.
Okay.
Yes, until no. And then it's like a problem.
And see, I guess I'm opposite. I'm no until yes. But I will care, but you have to tell me I should care. But I will if you tell me.
Wow. Jack begins having some financial troubles, but L. Ron has a great money-making scheme. All he has to do is give L. Ron $20,000. And guess what? L. Ron takes the cash and runs off with Sarah to Mexico, and ending all communications with Jack.
Who would have ever seen that coming?
Definitely not a Libra, that's for sure. Jack.
That is a great point. That is a great point. A Libra 100% would be like, oh my God, you're right here.
Oh my, we're always so shocked when people rip us off.
Surprise Pikachu meme.
I know, right? That's the official mascot of all Libras everywhere. So Jack casts a spell which causes a thunderstorm. This thunderstorm forces Elrond's boat to land where the law was waiting for him.
Let me guess, did he cast the spell with his dick out?
No trousers, Donald ducking. He's got like some sort of magical tunic on and his sword in the air, his cape flowing. His penis is very cold. That's just what I can imagine. It's just outside with the lightning storm and the rain coming down. And I'm just thinking like, oh gosh, you have no pants on. You're probably really cold. So Jack is able to recoup his money after a long legal battle.
He recouped like a third of it. Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, that's what happens to rich people who are like seduced by any old Scientologist that pops in their door.
And so this whole time, the FBI and Air Force have been monitoring Jack and all these shenanigans. And they observe a religious cult believed to advocate sexual perversion was organized at subject's home at 1003 South Orange Grove Avenue, Pasadena, California, which has been reported subversive. And because of this, Jack loses his security clearance. He begins working in Hollywood, pyrotechnics. This is what he does for money. And in 1950, L. Ron Hubbard releases Dianetics, which introduces Scientology to the world. Mm-hmm. Have you guys read Dianetics?
I have not read it all the way. I've watched approximately 1 billion documentaries and podcasts and whatnot about Scientology, so I've heard a bunch about it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, well, I'm obsessed with everything related to Scientology, so I read Dianetics, and I was very much like, I can see it. I can see why people would get into a lot of this. I'm like, this makes sense. A lot of this makes sense. So just that one book, but then you follow it up with watching the Leah Remini series, and you're like,
yeah.
Well, that's how all these cults get started, because all of them are saying very sort of common sense. But if you've never had therapy or never done self-reflection or never even talked to other humans, it seems like, wow, I could never conceive of this on my own. But the things they're saying are not that profound. And they all say the same thing. Nexium, borrowed from Scientology, which borrowed from Crowley. Yeah. I mean, like they're all just saying the same dumb shit over and over. But it feels, if you're in the right headspace and it finds you at the right time, it feels very powerful.
It is finding the vulnerable people and making them weak and, beating them down emotionally and mentally until they have no choice but to do whatever you're asking of them.
Everything can be a cult. And so it's not just vulnerable people. Some very smart people that we all know get into relationships and that are cult-like. They nag you and nag you and nag you, and you don't even know that you're being nagged.
Yeah. And you give away, secrets and things that could be used against you, and no one is, then you don't have a choice because you can't leave because you don't have anything.
And no one is impervious to that happening to them. If you think that, then you should not, because then you're just as likely to get targeted.
If you think that, you're going to start your own cult.
I mean, as I said, I am trying to start a cult, but so far been unsuccessful. But it doesn't seem that hard based on everything I've learned so far.
So L. Ron has released Dianetics. He's starting Scientology in 1952. Jack is mixing chemicals in his workshop, and there's 2 large explosions. He dies of his injuries in a matter of hours. He's just 37 years old. And this is sad. His mother, Ruth, is so devastated when she finds out. She dies by suicide from an overdose of Nembutal. While searching Jack's residence, the police find a box containing a film showing Jack and his mother having sex.
That is unconfirmed. That is and cannot be proven.
Big pause there. That seems like something that the police, the FBI would say they had.
He was very close with his mother, but there is no solid proof of any kind of anything like that, and there's lots of rumors about it.
Right. But if, that really undermines anything that he did before, right? He's like, well, now he's a mom fucking freak.
And his death has an awful lot of conspiracy behind it, because a lot of people think that he was killed off for tons of different reasons, and a lot of people, I'm sure, would have liked him dead. But he was, it was in his house. It was basic things that he does a lot. You know, it was stuff he worked with all the time.
Yeah.
So, of course, accidents happen. But I don't know.
There's a Frank Kritzer and Jack Parsons dying mysteriously in these explosions.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and I didn't realize he was 37. I thought he was, because so much happened in that period of time. I thought he was much older, but he's only 37. Like, that's younger than I am right now. Like, he could have done so much more with his life, you know, within the sex cult or without, who can say? But that, I mean, that does paint a different picture. To be that young, you know, you're definitely still a threat to the powers that be.
Absolutely. And you know, he was taken down so much, but by having his security clearance taken away and not being able to work on things that he was trying to do for, you know, scientific research. So absolutely could see, you know, government or whoever trying to get rid of him, or L. Ron's buddies, who knows. Even Crowley was not like gung-ho about him at the end. So his clan and everybody, there was a lot of people that had a lot of issues with him and the stuff he was doing, as there often are with people who aren't doing the thing everyone thinks they're supposed to be doing. But it was like, the explosion was bad enough that it blew his arm off, and like they didn't recover the arm. Like, it was blown to bits, and it blew half of his face off. And when the paramedics got there, he was still alive and he was trying to say something. But nobody could make out what he was saying. And then he died. He was dead by the time he got to the hospital. And just an interesting set of events there. And his mother too, you know, like it was awful. And Marjorie like had a rough. Do you have something about this in your notes too?
No.
Like, she had it really rough after he was gone. She kind of lost her mind a bit. And I will say, though, one thing is there was a bunch of drugs in the house, and the first thing when she heard that he had died was, let's go get the drugs out before the cops find them. And they successfully removed all the drugs from the home before the cops could find them. And so good job, Marjorie. But then she just kind of became very depressed, and she used to walk around with like a handbag that she said had Jack's head in it. And she was she lived, I think, for a while after that. I believe she lived into the 90s, but was just kind of like mentally off after that. And she donated his, let's see, there was something, I think like one of his diaries that was important was destroyed by the cops. And then he had a whole library of journals and books and whatnot that was donated to a library, and the library like discarded it. So a ton of his research and writings were just lost forever.
Yeah, Jack's contributions and academic papers are removed from Caltech. Meanwhile, Nazi aerospace engineer Werner von Braun calls Jack the true father of the American space race. And while Jack's contributions are actively hidden because of his weird cult sex stuff, Werner von Braun, this Nazi whose factories use concentration camp slave labor, where more people actually died making the weapons that he was building than actually were killed by the weapons, and who he was personally honored by Adolf Hitler. He has an arena and entertainment complex named after him in Huntsville, Alabama, called the Von Braun Center.
I was going to say, didn't he came over to America after a while and started to work for the U.S.
Yeah, that's the thing. That lots of Nazis came to work for the U.S. And
I do think that he's one of the ones that was more into like the science of it than the underlying mission, you know. But you are working for Nazis. Mm-hmm.
You are using concentration camp slave labor. Mm-hmm. You are a bad guy.
You are the company you keep, as they say.
And also, let's just acknowledge, too, Huntsville, Alabama, you named your arena and entertainment complex after a Nazi.
Are we surprised?
This is the type of bonkers shit that goes on in this country.
Yeah, not surprised at all about, look at Alabama.
So that is the crazy story of Jack Parsons' life, and I think it would just make a great sitcom.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. And who knows, maybe I'll write a pilot.
I think that's a great idea. I would love for it to be like a real movie that covers the whole thing somehow.
But as a comedy, I
would like it to.
The sitcom is the comedy. The movie.
The sitcom is the comedy. Yeah, I would like a real drama that.
No, I want if it's a movie. If it's a movie, I want it to be like a Wes Anderson style. I
think we're due for an Oppenheimer, but Parsons.
Exactly. That's what I want. I would like an actual dramatic
like a 3.5 hour movie
with all the details, because Strange Angel, the TV show, I feel like it had 2 seasons. Maybe I'm wrong and it was only 1, but it got canceled before it got into like a lot of the. I mean, it got into some of the crazy shit, but it didn't get far enough into the Scientology and stuff. So it seemed like it was expecting a new season and didn't get one. Interesting how that happens, especially when you're dealing with, things like magic and gay sex and stuff.
And Scientology, which they are quite powerful.
This is true. That's probably more accurate, like that they didn't get as far into the Scientology and stuff before it was canceled. But I would love an actual, like, legitimate telling of the story, but it would work amazingly as a comedy. Just like, I feel like nobody knows about this guy. Mm-hmm. And that's because a lot of scientists disregard him, and partially because he doesn't have papers published and articles and journals written, because they were all lost. And also he didn't have degrees. He didn't go to school for this. He just made it up as he went. And it's like, yeah, because he's fucking genius and didn't need to go to school to do it. He wrote the book. So,
and after hearing all this, what is the lesson learned for you both?
Don't wear pants, do more weird stuff.
Don't invite L. Ron Hubbard into your house, and don't make your movie bombs in your laundry room.
Here's the thing I take away from it. We're still talking about Jack Parsons. We're still talking about George Van Tassel, Aleister Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard even. Ooh. But we're talking about them because they were their full weird self. And there you go. You will be remembered if you lean into your full weird self.
At least by other weirdos.
Don't play it safe. That's what I'm saying. Don't play it safe. But, I would be weird, but also be nice. And I think then you could avoid the bad stuff.
Yeah, hopefully. Sometimes you're too fucked up on all the drugs you're taking to realize that you're, giving money to a Scientologist.
Yeah, I think I'll stick to I will get a sword and I think I might have a cape somewhere. I will avoid the drugs, but I can do the sword, cape, and the no pants. I think that will work for me. So I'll be trying that later to, I don't know, make something exciting happen. A storm, perhaps. I'll try that one.
Yeah, try the storm.
Actively ask yourself every day, are my contributions, could they ever potentially be used for war crimes? If so, how can you just alter your contributions so that they maybe can't be used to be war crimes?
Yeah.
Be weird, be nice, don't commit war crimes, don't make stuff that might be used for war crimes.
Excellent.
This is Haunted Hollywood Hour. You could find us on Instagram at Haunted Hollywood Hour Podcast, all one word. If you want to help us find more people who are weird just like us, give us a rating, a like, a review on whatever platform you are listening to us on. If you have ideas for future episodes or even want to be on a future episode and chat with us, send us an email at hauntedhollywoodhour@gmail.com. Anything else?
Keep it weird.
Yeah, keep it weird. The best advice. Keep it weird.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.